Hi, I am ZI NENG, and today I will be explaining on the lab 2 the Bernoulli theorem demonstrations. The introduction of the experiment. The experiment is mainly based on the chapter of the Bernoulli equation in the chapter of elementary of fluid dynamics, the Bernoulli equations. Bernoulli theorem in fluid dynamics is the relations among the pressure, velocity, and elevations in a moving fluid, which are liquid or gas. In fluid dynamics, Bernoulli principle stated that for an viscid flow, an increase in the velocity of the fluid occurs simultaneously with a decrease in pressure or a decrease in the fluid potential energy. The objective of the experiment. The objective of this experiment is to investigate the validity of the Bernoulli equations when applied to a steady flow of water in a tapered duct. The methodology of this experiment. In this experiment, the validity of the Bernoulli equations will be verified by the Bernoulli theorem model F115. A series of rod topping allow measurements of the static pressure distributions along the converging duct. These tappings are connected to a manometer bank incorporating a manifold with air breath valve. Pressure rise of the manometer is facilitated by a hand pump. This unit has been designed with a hydraulic bench to study the characteristics of flow through both converging and diverging sections. During the experiment, water is fed through a hose connector and we can control the flow rate of the water by adjusting a flow regulator valve at the outlets of the test sections. The duct has an upstream of 14 degrees and a downstream of 21 degrees. Next, let us move to the setup of the experiment. In the model apparatus model F115, we have the airbag screw manometer tubes unions, adjustable feet, and then water inlet, discharge valve, and granite, taxation, and finally the Peter probe. In this figure, show the locations of each tapping point and the corresponding distance and the diameter. Here is the experiment setup of this experiment. Here is the experimental procedure for this experiment. Below are the equations that will be used in this experiment. Now, we have come to the part of the result and discussions. Here's the result. For the first reading, the average time is 0.28 minutes and the flow rate is 10.71. And here is the result of the second reading with an average time of 0.29 minutes and a flow rate of 10.34. And here is the result for the third reading with an average time of 0.32 minutes and a flow rate of 9.38. We have come to the discussion part of this experiment. Based on the calculations made after the experiment, the velocity of the flowing fluid is increased as the fluid flows from a wider to narrower pipe. The result shows rise as its manometer tube when the pressure difference increases. This is shown in all the result table, where the velocity of the water that flows in a tapered duct increases as the duct area decreases. From the analysis of the result, it can be concluded that the velocity of the water decreases as the water flow rate decreases. By using Bernoulli equations, results shown that the highest velocity is at the cross sections where there is a smaller diameter, which is 10 mm. By using the continuity equations, the VIC can be determined. The result shown that all difference VIB minus the VIC is positive value. Therefore, it shows this experiment is done successfully. Finally, we come to the conclusion part of this experiment. From this experiment, we found out that the fluid flow under the horizontal streamline will follow the Bernoulli principle, where when the speed of the fluid increases, the pressure of the fluid will decrease. The result shows the reading of each manometer tube increases when the pressure difference increases. From the result obtained, we can conclude that the Bernoulli equations is valid for convergent and divergent flow, as both or it does obey the equations. For all flow, as the pressure difference increases, the time taken for the 3 liter water collected is also increased and the flow rate of the water decreases. This experiment is considered a successful as the difference between the VIB and VIC is positive. That's all from me. Thank you for watching it.